Now, our guest of the day, Owen Jones, comes fresh from organising a protest outside Parliament last night. Very energetic of you. Two causes were being championed by the thousands of protesters in Parliament Square last night. One Day Without Us, mentioned by Owen, celebrated the contribution of migrants in the UK and coincided with a protest against Donald Trump's proposed state visit to Britain. Inside Parliament's Westminster Hall chamber, MPs were holding a debate, responding to rival public petitions on the President's visit.
Rolling out the royal red carpet, pimping out the Queen for the Donald Trump. This apparently is what they meant by getting our sovereignty back. The words of Andrew Rawnsley.
Mr. Walker, I don't think it's in order to refer to pimping out our sovereign, even if quoting some, however distinguished journalist.
We can refer to all the things about Donald Trump, as some people have, even though he's democratically elected. Xi Jinping was here last year. Where were the demonstrations then? How many votes did Xi Jinping get? How many votes?
Can you really lay out the red carpet for someone who has talked about grabbing women by the pussy? Can you really lay out the red carpet for someone who's insulted the LGBT community, branded Mexicans as rapists and murderers?
Let's look at some of his comments. The charge of misogyny. I mean, of course, what he said, what he was reported to say in a private conversation is absolutely horrible and ridiculous, and I hope none of us would make it. But which one of us has not made some ridiculous sexual comment sometime in our past?
And we're joined now by the Conservative MP Nigel Evans, who is a supporter of Donald Trump. Welcome to the Daily Politic.
Do that, shouldn't I,
you
Joe?
should. Well, I think it's slightly different, isn't it? That.
Just leave it there.
Could do that for next time.
It's Nigel. We're keeping it easy for you today. I don't know whether the third person will be Nigel. Joe?
Never know. It would keep it simple. Now, you accused MPs of double standards on Trump, but isn't it the case that many who oppose his visit were standing up for the values they genuinely believe in?
Yeah, so where were they when Xi Jinping came? Were they the same values? I don't expect every member of Parliament to endorse everything that's either said or done by any leader who comes from any country. So if it is a ruler of a Gulf state, which is important to us, or whether it is Xi Jinping...
And MPs oppose those too?
Well, I've got to say nothing. I don't remember having a parliamentary debate about Xi Jinping coming, or any Middle East leader either. And so what I accuse them of is double standards as far as that's concerned, and also sneering. Whenever anybody talks about Donald Trump, they find it incredibly difficult to get to terms with the fact that he is President of the United States, that he won. You've only got to look at that fantastic Newsnight piece when you had George Clooney and Nancy Pelosi and a few others laughing whenever they mentioned his name, that he would never become president. And the fact is he is president, and sneering isn't going to help, and it's an arrogance.
He's democratically elected. Get over it.
Is that how democracies work then? Someone wins an election, the opposition becomes silent. Bizarre. That's not democracy. Otherwise, in the House of Commons, you wouldn't have the official opposition scrutinising the government.
That's not the same as opposing the US President from coming over to the UK for a visit.
No, that's not what it's about. It's a state visit, an honour, a huge honour that many presidents, like George Bush Sr., never received. No president at the outset has been given a state visit like this, none. And this is the most obnoxious, menacing president that the US has had in modern times.
You're condemning the American people when you say that as well, Owen. You are. There's 63 million, actually, I've been corrected. 63 million people voted for Donald Trump. And it's the fact that people like yourself and Tony Blair and others, I'm going to
not often lumped together with Tony.
You couldn't think of any more people there, could you?
Oh, I could. Who can't come to terms with the fact that middle America, the people who felt dispossessed, who feel that they're not listened to...
But why should he have a state visit?
Because, and it's, I was joking with somebody the other day, it's not to say thank you for what you've done over the last 7 days. It's the fact is that he received Theresa May as the first world leader to come there. He put the bust of Winston Churchill straight back into the Oval Office. He has said we're now in the front of a trade queue, when Barack Obama said we were at the back.
What will it achieve?
Barack Obama said we were at the back of the trade queue. Right. Where were you then?
But what will your protest actually achieve?
Intervention,
I mean, what will they actually do? They're not going to change anything.
Yes, they are. They're putting pressure on our own government. Look, when people marched against the Iraq war, 2 million for that matter, It's interesting.
The war still happened,
Well,
of
but the
course.
point I was making is public opinion at the time was actually supportive of Iraq. Not many people admit that these days. At the moment, if you look at all the polling, whether you vote Conservative for your party, for Labour, for the Lib Dems, for the SNP, for the Greens, people are united in revulsion at the misogyny and the racism and the threat to world peace that this man
What's the
represents.
racism? Because he's going to build a wall to stop migrants coming in.
He's spoken about Mexican immigrants, and I.
Do you know?
horrendous
And, no,
way.
well, I'll tell you,
Rapists,
they've got
But
13.
isn't that racist?
No, they've got 13 million illegal immigrants in the United States of America.
No,
They want
look-
to control immigration. Go and Google search Hillary Clinton fence and wall. She has actually said she
Nigel,
wanted
but
to
does
see
that make
a
it
fence
right?
to
We're
stop.
talking-
No, well, if you've got Hillary Clinton saying that it's okay to stop migrants coming in from Mexico into the United States.
The way he's described Mexican immigrants as rapists and as criminals is unacceptable.
No.
And look, members of his own party, the Republican Party, when he attacked a Mexican judge who wasn't Mexican, they themselves attacked him for being racist. They're not lefties. They're not like me.
Is it
They're
about
people of his own party.
Is it about not normalising some of the things that Donald Trump has said? So whether it is about the wall, whether it is about a ban or saying you don't want any Muslims coming into the country, some of the comments he's made about women that many people found unacceptable. If you don't protest or register your unhappiness, you normalise it.
No, listen, I don't mind people protesting. Clearly, we're a democracy too, and people who don't like Donald Trump after, well, I've got to say, I was in America for the inauguration, as you know. People were demonstrating before the inauguration. He hadn't even done an executive order at that
so
stage.
we're clear about the aims. It is standing in solidarity with those who are affected by his policies, with the majority of Americans who did reject him in the election. But also what it's about is putting pressure on our own government because they want to orientate this country to become even closer to Trump's America. In this referendum we were promised we're going to take back control.
Yep.
That doesn't mean giving up control to Donald Trump.
But
and equally, just finally,
Yeah.
it's also about joining the dots, about saying we shouldn't blame migrants and foreigners for problems caused by the people at the top, by bankers,
I'm
by
going to try and get
tax
some
avoiders and all
agreement
that.
between Owen and myself.
well,
go on then.
For the first time ever. History. Breaking
History's
news.
being made here.
Yeah.
Heard it here first.
That you would agree that, because the analogy of Brexit and what happened in America, which is that the dispossessed, the deplorables, the people who feel left behind are not listened to, voted for Trump and voted for Brexit, and that there is an arrogance in some people who simply cannot understand, get to grips with the fact that there is actually a movement of ordinary people out there who've had enough.
Do you accept that?
No, I accept lots of people are fed up and they're angry and they have every reason to be angry. Their living standards stagnating and falling, their kids having a worse life than
Yep.
them. My point is, I don't think it's the answer to blame migrants for problems caused by people at the top. It wasn't migrants who plunged our economies into disaster. It was the banks. It's not migrants who avoid tax on an industrial scale whilst our services are cut. It's the people at the top of society. And we're trying to balance that debate. Instead of blaming our neighbours, the people who prop up our services, like the NHS, or in America, their services, let's start talking about the people at the top, like plutocrats like Donald Trump, for example.
Well, Owen Jones obviously support John Bercow's claim that he shouldn't be able to address Donald Trump, not Owen Jones, shouldn't be able to address both
Not
houses of
often
Parliament.
compared to
Do
Donald
you
Trump.
agree? Do you agree with John Bercow? You were a deputy speaker.
No, I don't. And I think it should have gone through normal procedure. Norman Fowler has said they've had words and that they will now get it back to the normal procedure, which is that there are 3 people that make that decision, not just one.
Thank you very much.